Bonnie, a career criminal.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is...
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen? That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon. It's afternoon. It should be almost everywhere, unless you're in Hawaii. Maybe there it is. This is Tyler Yonke, LPR, just doing a quick little... I got on this morning with Jose, did some good stuff there, and I had some stuff planned, and I don't know if I really want to get to it. I didn't let anybody know this was happening, but I thought it's some things I've been thinking about, so maybe we'll just do it. Tyler Yonke, LPR. Oh.
Top Lobster Productions.
There you go. Top Lobster Productions. We're going to be all under this umbrella of Top Lobster Productions, LPR, I don't know if Timeline Cleanse is still happening. Already Dead, Better Off Dead, Liberty Lockdown, No Way Jose, Nephilim Death Squad, all of that. Tower Gang, it's going to all be under there. So check those, check us out everywhere. I'm going to get together and do maybe an ad for that as well. So I thought I would just talk about my feelings on Con Inc., Conservative Inc. And I feel, maybe it's just me, maybe they're not decreasing, and maybe they are more powerful, but it feels, I had a dinner last night with a good friend, it's been since high school, and he's kind of, we both changed, and it was just interesting to understand that we don't just follow what is told of us anymore. You can like certain things, but this Daily Wire and Babylon Bee, Jordan Peterson, Steven Crowder, there's just something about them lately that is, I think maybe they're losing something, and maybe we'll take a look here at the Jeremy Boring story and see if the exclusive Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring to step down. As co-founder of the Daily Wire, stepping down from his role as co-CEO to focus on creative projects for the company. He told staff in a memo obtained by Axios on Tuesday why it matters. Boring has been the Daily Wire with the Daily Wire since its inception in 2015 and helped grow the outlet from a tiny news startup with $4.7 million in seed funding to a giant media company north of $1 billion last year valued. Wow. State of play, Caleb Robinson, the company's founding CEO, will become the company's full-time CEO effective immediately, and you don't know who he is. And that's kind of the point I'm making here with Boring, is he's out in the forefront about everything. You shouldn't really know who your CEO, I guess, is. Robinson co-founded it along with Boring and editor emeritus Ben Shapiro. Boring said he will remain with the company in an advisory role. He will continue to host Daily Wire Backstage. Boring. The company's, he's got the perfect name, monthly show featuring Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Andrew Klavan. It's really, that is one of the best shows. Sup, nerds. Thanks for coming in here. Tower Gang NPC. That show, that Backstage show, is the most beta male trying to act Chad. It is, hey, watch us drink whiskey and we're gonna smoke a cigar, but they are just all so beta males. It's really been interesting to watch over the years. When I first watched it, I was like, when I was more into them, and I was watching, I was just like, something about this. It's like kind of like it's The View with men, but almost the same testosterone levels. So it's pretty. Hey, what now? Welcome. We're just doing a quick show on Sunday here. Hope you guys had a good weekend so far. He will focus on projects, the Pendragon cycle, in which he serves as director and executive producer. Zoom out. Boring has led the Daily Wire's commercial expansion over the past decade, growing the outlet from a social media publishing brand to a streamer and e-commerce giant. Most notably, he has overseen the creation of Daily Wire Plus, subscription streaming service, and BetKey, the subscription streamer for kids. Yikes. He also helped the company's e-commerce business into a multi-million-dollar. Look, I don't doubt that he's got at least some good business sense, but there has been some problems. I'm sticking your feet in the fire here with a lot of the stuff. You're seeing this with the Babylon Bee as well, which all these guys are jumping in the fray and it's perfectly fine to be opinionated, but man, they just feel like they're wrong opinions all the time. And kind of disturbingly, right? So we'll talk about some of this as well. Maybe we should first of all, because I thought this is one of the things I've really had an issue. I don't know about an issue, but let's see if I could do it with this one here. With the Daily Wire is they capitalize on any kind of controversy to scare you into something about whatever, gender, chocolate, whatever, Budweiser. And then they sell their own product on top of it, okay? And people have gotten, but it comes across so weird. So and by the way, according to Candace Owens, and this is another thing about the Daily Wire, losing Candace Owens, she blows up even bigger after the fact. Probably a lot of money lost there. Brett Cooper, the comment section, which I never watched, but she had millions of subscribers. Then they handed over to her friend, and they had millions of views, and now they go to like 20, 30,000 views per episode. That's a huge fall off, and it's just not and it seems like it's not just making business decisions, it's like burning bridges to fix these things. Now, according to Candace Owens, these are people like Knowles or some other people like Brett Cooper that came up with an idea, and then Jeremy Boring takes it and he runs with it and he makes it his name. And here's one of them. Here's go. Why's that guy still on the ground? He just jumped.
Do you remember when there were 2 genders and only 1.5 of them had to shave their mustaches? Oh, hi. I'm Jeremy Boring, CEO and God King of the Daily Wire. Harry's Razors used to advertise on our shows. They're a great product, and we were happy to do it. That's before some peon who works for me went and said that boys are boys and girls are girls, and that was just too much for Harry's. They condemned our views held by millions of Americans and virtually every human who's walked the planet until about 15 minutes ago, as inexcusable. And they dropped their ads from our network because of what they called values misalignment. You're damn right our values are misaligned. And it's not just Harry's either. Gillette razors used to be the best a man could get. Then they decided that men are too toxic. Unless you're the kind of man who teaches his daughter to shave her beard. If that makes sense to you, keep buying Gillette. But if you've had enough of the woke bullshit, and you're tired of paying companies like Harry's and Gillette to hate you, then buy my new razor instead. Behold, Jeremy's razors. Yes, they're real. Yes, they're fabulous. But Jeremy, you say, you're a svelte silver fox with a salt and pepper beard that's the envy of lesser men.
Wow.
You're damn right I am. And I want to be clear that shaving with a Jeremy's razor won't actually make you look more like me.
Yes, you're giving me fierce. You're giving me power.
Could make you look more like this guy, though. And that's the most homoerotic moment you'll ever get from a Jeremy's razor commercial. What kind of man shaves with a Jeremy's razor? I don't know. How about cowboys, firefighters, those guys that shot Osama bin Laden? I mean, no, none of those guys have ever even heard of a Jeremy's razor, but imagine how much more manly they'd be if they had. Right now, you're probably wondering if this whole thing is a joke. Sure it is. But that doesn't mean it isn't real, or that it won't be the best shave of your life. Harry's Razors doesn't want your business. I do. They seem to hate you, and I can't say that I love you, but I don't mean you any specific harm. Our country's in trouble. Conservatives are being canceled by Hollywood, the media, universities, and now Harry's Razors. Stop giving your money to woke corporations who don't think you deserve their product. Give it to me instead.
Head over to IHateHarrys.com.
Okay, so there's a bunch of other commercials, and I don't know. I mean, I've never watched it before. It is interesting to see how you can put a perception out there of a not a manly person, in my opinion. I mean, the least manly probably in that whole skit that they did there. But you put him around women, you give him a little beard, you put a coat on him, you make him swill some whiskey, and he is supposed to then exude manliness, right? And that's kind of the whole thing. And it's like, okay, I don't know your perception, but. Whatever. Let's scare you about razors, and we're gonna make money off of it. Okay, fine. I mean, but it's a weird person. But by the way, that was one video, and then he did another, and he has the exact. It's the chocolates, and he has the exact. Let's go to this one.
Day is upon us again.
Exact day, same
and
outfit.
I love an international woman, but our friends over at Hershey's, they don't even know what a woman is. They've hired a biological male to be the spokesman.
Well, here's two. There's three. There's three women right there. Okay. I don't want to keep watching this over there. Interesting stuff. Now, what I thought I would go through here, because this kind of made me think about it here with some of this razors shit, is JFK stuff. So let's look at a few little things of people who have come out about the JFK files. And this is why I think they're going to start losing credibility, because they'll capitalize on a razor and then they'll forget about realistic stuff, which is the JFK files and maybe some things that are mentioned.
Here's another claim. Bombshell. The CIA exclusively requested the elimination of any and all mentions of Israel. Okay, that would be a bombshell. But the truth is that there have been plenty of redactions surrounding other countries. And by the way, there were more redactions as it relates to Israel in previous documents than here. And you
wasn't that the point, that those redactions? I don't think the CIA request was for this redact. I could be wrong, but anyway.
Israel mentioned. Are there some? Sure. But the same can be said for the USSR, for Cuba, for Mexico.
But was there a CIA note saying redact Israeli intelligence on those, or Russian intelligence? See, that's the question.
Yeah. In some instances, they're redacted, and in some they are not. Now, can you say there's something there as far as a redaction? Sure you can. Can you make the claim that the redactions only apply to Israel? And there's, well, we know it's not true because you're literally listing where Israel's mentioned.
Okay, that's not a joke. Yeah, it was listed to redact Israel, and probably from a previous time. I don't know when that note was put on there, if it was a previous one, but they are listing stuff now without Israel, you would hope. But that's kind of the whole point, too. It's like, why is the CIA saying don't list Israeli intelligence issues, right? And you know, people like Crowder just want to kind of dismiss it. And so when that's the case, you start to go, okay, well, that's interesting. Maybe there's something we need to think about here. And then you get this thing, which is just, I mean, this is top notch right here. This is Ben Shapiro talking about, once again, the same idea and the JFK, and it's presumably because of the Israel part.
Sort of conspiracy theorizing that's become incredibly popular on the right these days. It was popular on the left. And now it's become increasingly popular on the right. The kind of, let's just ask questions. We'll ask, who really killed JFK? Wink, wink, nod.
Well, first of all, yeah. Do you know who did it? Are you sure it's Oswald? Because there's a reason why the commission had to come out with a report, okay? The Warren Commission back in 68, and it was the murder in 64, something like that. So they came out with it later, and if you watched any of these documents on it, you know, I talked about this where it was a 4-part series with CBS breaking it down. It's gaslighting. It's pathetic, okay? So there's a lot of problems with that. But this is the guy that pushed COVID and did all this
Nod.
other kind of stuff, masking.
And then you're like, well, do you have any evidence of the thing that you are presupposing? Well, no, I'm not making any accusations. I just know I don't believe the story that I'm being told. I know not to trust the authorities. You're like, well, that's fine, but do you have like any evidence? Like evidence, not just supposition.
Ben, this is why we wanted the documents, so we can have evidence. Okay? I know, now you're going to say the big news here in a second, but that's the point. They're not releasing it. They're not telling us. They're saying it's a magic bullet, and now we just need to go along with that. So how about you release all the evidence, just like with COVID, all the, gain of function. You're just going to believe the government. Yes, Ben wants you to just believe everything that's said out there. It doesn't mean it may or may not be truthful, but can we at least get the facts on these things? This guy's such a, this is a guy who says he's an attorney or a journalist, and you're just like, we've got all the answers.
I said, well, you're part of it, aren't you? You're part of it. The reason that you're so defensive about all this is, I don't care who killed JFK. I mean, I do, because it's really interesting, but I noticed that the calendar says 2025 and he was killed in 1963. And so my opinion about who killed JFK has about as much relevance as who killed William McKinley, or James Garfield, which is to say not an enormous amount.
Okay, so this is what's frustrating about this, because, and by the way, this is Anomaly. He's got 10.6 million, because the obvious answer to all of that is, I mean, I've talked about this, where the ADL will go back to 1913 and try to relitigate Leo Frank and the murder of Mary Fagan to exonerate him. It is not possible to do. He's totally guilty, and try to do that. But 1963 is too far ago. There was a Holocaust in in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 19s. So, getting close to, what are we looking at? 60, 80 years, get 70 years. What is it? I don't do the math. So it's a longer time than 1963. And that's, never forget is the token comment there. But this we just got to dismiss. It's dumb. It reminds me of Jeremy Boring when he posted up here not too long ago a tweet that said, Ian Carroll and Candace Owen going on podcast. It was the most devastating day in his life, or they couldn't imagine a more devastating event. It's like, well, there's been a lot of them. Okay. Not like Ted mentioned, 9/11, October 7th was probably worse than those two going on a podcast. But the selling of the narrative by these people is quite shocking. And then you have the Babylon Bee, these people. This guy says here, a lot of young men, white young men in particular, have been pushed to the right by the leftists who vilified them. But they're not all becoming conservatives. A growing number of them seem to have just as much contempt for conservatism as secular progressivism. That's because people like you, Seth, are making it disturbing for a person to come over, selling them the goods here, calling them anti-Semitic for a myriad of questioning and obvious comments of like, I don't really care to have another country, controlling everything. And that's the kind of shit you get. Now, this is not really particularly on this, but I just came across this yesterday, and this blew my mind. This is a guy, his name is Brady Knowlton. So he's put on a new podcast. This is episode 2 of his podcast. And he's, this post here has 1.1 million views. And by the way, he's a horrible host. You think I'm bad? Wait till you hear this guy. He's not entertaining. I don't know what he's done other than have a beard to get a show. But this is what happens. You grift the right way. You're on the right thing. You say all the right things. You're going to get it. So let's talk first of all. He has Alan Dershowitz on here, and he talks about Epstein, and it is a fascinating conversation that he talks about. Let's go here.
Government deception.
I want to talk to you about another cover up, and you and I did a previous a podcast where you were discussing the Epstein situation, and you have been completely transparent on this. And I want you to know, I got so many messages saying that he's so believable. I believe him. And I don't really think the public understands how transparent you've been on this. And I want.
By the way, Dershowitz was Epstein's attorney.
I wanted to ask you, since the FBI is facing some serious legitimacy problems right now, and the public is demanding that these files come out, do you think that they will come out? And if they do, what should we expect?
They won't come out, and they're being deliberately withheld. I am the only person who's calling for complete and total disclosure of every piece of evidence.
Only person? I mean, come on, the hyperbole here is a little bit much, and he's going to call for this. And when I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, that's but remember what he first said there, the documents will never come out, but I'm pushing for them to come out. So he knows he suspects that. So what's going to be the problem then, right? And he's the attorney, so he knows a lot of this stuff already. So it's like, the documents are never going to come out. I am pushing for them to come out. Of course you can push for them because it's never going to happen.
Relevant to Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Easy. I have nothing to hide. I haven't touched a woman other than my wife since the day I met Jeffrey Epstein. This woman who accused me, I never met her, never heard of her, never knew who she was. And we were able to prove conclusively that I couldn't have been in the places where I was alleged to have been when this all happened. So it was very easy for me to be transparent. But the government is now withholding evidence. Let me tell you what.
Okay, and I want you to listen. There is something to, because his reason for wanting the documents out is much different than why we want to expose pedophiles. He wants to do something else. Let's see if he can.
They're withholding evidence that shows that many of the women who made accusations made them falsely. They're protecting the women, what they're saying, and they're saying it openly. We're not going to disclose any information critical of the, quote, victims. But who are the victims? In my case, I was the victim. I was the victim of a false accusation. And so they're not protecting the victims. They're protecting accusers who may be victims or may be victimizers. And so we're never going to see that information disclosed. How do I know? Because I have that information. I know what's there, but they won't release it. They won't release information that raises questions about the credibility of people who claim to be victims.
Now, look, as someone who does in court all the time, he said, she said stuff back and forth. Yeah, women could be just as much as anybody else. So I get it. I get what you're saying here. But it is interesting. He hasn't said anything about, yet about really exposing the underbelly of these evil people. It's really about like, hey, the evidence, we need to get it out there so we can show that there's a bunch of these harlots that are making false accusations. That's really
There's also information about other people. I know their names.
This is a great point, Stephen. Why doesn't he release what he has? Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, he says, this is what I don't understand, which is, and he could be have some legitimacy here, but he's like, I've got information. Later on, Epstein's attorney, and I'm like, okay, it's privileged information. But then he said he wrote a book about it all, and I'm like, okay, so I don't know what.
I'm not permitted to disclose them. Who have
because, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but the privilege continues with even after a person dies. You don't then just get to disclose everything just because they passed away. Okay, let's.
They were accused of having unprotected sex. Is there any evidence of that? No, but just on the basis of accusations, it tends to be believed. You say people now believe me because I'm credible. Why shouldn't they believe me? I've done absolutely nothing wrong, and not a single piece of evidence has ever been produced to show I did anything wrong.
Now, look, he could be right. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be hanging around this Epstein guy. He could be completely right. Maybe he's exonerated. Maybe his underwear was left on this whole time and whatnot.
And yet people say, well, he's been accused. Who knows? Maybe it's a gray area. No, it isn't a gray area. It's black and white. False accusation, total innocence. And of course, I want everything revealed because if everything is released, it will prove my innocence beyond any doubt. I want every videotape, every audio tape, every document, every redacted FBI file, everything to be released, but it's not going to be.
So you believe that they're protecting the accusers. Now, on the sides of the accused, do you feel like that there are people that are being granted protections that other people accused of these type of crimes are not?
Yes, I know of such cases. I know of at least several cases where people have been accused and named, and the courts have covered it up.
did you find in a I don't know if you can tell me this, but did you find that obtaining the non-prosecution agreement in Florida was unusually easy, or that the prosecutor was overly willing to cooperate?
Oh, it was very, very hard. We faced very, very aggressive prosecutors, but we were able to prove beyond any doubt that Epstein never traveled in.
So he was the attorney at the time. So there has always been talk about this sweetheart deal in Florida. So just remember, this is Epstein saying, "Oh, we got pushed into a corner. We had a lot of." Let's just keep going. He's Epstein's attorney at the time, so the argument is a bit suspect
Interstate
here.
commerce for purposes of having sex with an underage person, and that was a requirement. That's why the government felt they had to accept a plea bargain where he pleaded guilty to state charges that don't require travel in interstate commerce. So it was a very tough negotiation. It took months and months and months, and we got the best deal we could. The government thought they got the best deal they could, but it's been called a sweetheart deal. It was not a sweetheart deal. It was based on lack of evidence of some of the elements of the crimes.
So the DOJ is saying that the files that they will release, I think there's supposed to be a dump on April 1st, but they're saying that some of it is going to be redacted for reasons of national security.
That's not. There's no national security. Let me tell you,
I agree.
Jeffrey Epstein had nothing to do with national security.
Wow.
He was not.
Now, I don't believe that what he was doing, because he's not, he might have been doing illegal spy work. I don't think he was contracted by our government. So there shouldn't be our government protecting anything. But he's going to go and tie it in a different way, which I believe is just self-serving.
A spy for the Mossad. I think he was in Israel once in his life.
A spy for the Mossad. This is the problem here with people like the Dershowitz. They don't see a difference between Israel and the U.S. It's all the same. So since he's not a spy for Mossad, according to Dershowitz, then there's not any national security interest. I would say if I'm doing something and I'm doing it against my own government, and collaborating with another entity, foreign entity. It's not security interest of the U.S. government necessarily. It's just should be exposed because I'm a private citizen engaging in foreign, subservience. So that's what he's trying to. But his idea is, since he's not with Mossad, then he's obviously not. It's not national interest because Mossad, U.S., all the same thing. But sorry, that's not how it works.
Came to visit for one day. I think he flew out the same day he flew in. There's just no truth to any of this. He was not an asset. No national security involved. He was, a guy.
I didn't say well, no one's saying he's an asset of the U.S., dumb fuck. Asset of Mossad. Okay, that's foreign national. Now, is that security national interest on our side? I don't think so. I say you expose it. That's a traitor.
Was a hedonist and did some awful
like
things.
I said, traitor.
To some people. But there's no national security. Everything should be revealed. Everything should be released.
Okay, let's go up to. He talks here about Israel.
It's amendment.
Okay, let's get into Israel. In the 1980s, there was a time when American sentiment turned against Israel for a while, and then it seemed like in most of my life that there was much better.
You're doing good.
PR and much better. There's much better sentiment in the country toward.
That's a good point. It's PR. It's public relations, propaganda, that kind of thing.
Towards Israel. But it looks like that the propaganda war is one where it's not the kinetic war they're losing. It's that the propaganda war is just a constant onslaught. And there's lots of.
So note that pro-Israel info, is PR. Negative is propaganda.
Reasons for that, but I wanted to ask, how can Israel be more effective? Every government, you and I are both critical of government, and I think that's an important part of the system, is people should always be critical of the government and suspicious of power, whether it's America or Israel. But a lot of the sentiment is turning against the Jewish people, wherever they are. What do you think should be done on the propaganda side, or just on the media influence side, to change that?
Well, it's very hard. Well, I'm 86 years old, so I can't pick up a gun and go and fight and defend the Jewish people in Gaza.
Why would you? Why would you do that? I thought you're an American. I'm 53 years old. I'm not going to pick up a gun and go fight for Germany, even though my heritage. Yeah, because why would I fucking do that? Why would you do that? Why do you think that's even some sort of option for you to do? But you know what you can do? You can propagate
Gaza from what happened on October 7th.
Yeah, why would you?
And murders and beheadings and all of that. Well,
okay, so I like that. You're talking about propaganda. Now you're getting into stuff that's been debunked, okay? Burning babies, beheadings, those kind of things. But you like to spew it out here anyway. So here we are. Once again, just remember this when you're going back to listening to the Epstein thing, how just easy it is for him to throw in just a tad. And this is this thing we've talked about over and over. October 7th, bad, okay? I'm not happy about what Hamas did, but you can just say what they did and then argue off of that. You don't have to make up things to make it worse, but you do because you want to make them so disgusting as animals that then you can't have any conversation. There are animals, okay, on both sides of that, I will say. But a lot of the people that are getting killed out there, even both sides, well, there's only one side that's getting killed in this situation. You've got to have some humanity for them. And so
all I can do is write books. And so my most recent small book is called The 10 Big Anti-Israel Lies and How to Refute Them with Truth. I printed, at no profit to me, 1 million copies of this. It's small enough to fit in your pocket. And we're distributing them to 1 million students on college campuses around the country, Columbia and Harvard and all over. And we've already distributed 600,000 copies on approximately 1,000 campuses. And so I take on the lies and I try to answer them in the marketplace of ideas. I believe in the First Amendment. I don't think people should be shut down. They should be answered. This thug who is being deported, who was the leader of the pro-Hamas demonstration.
Okay, and look, I'll get to this question for Dershowitz. How much longer will the U.S. have to subsidize Israel? Yes, good question. Now, Stephen, I don't know if you're serious or not, but I'll take your question serious. Do you guys realize that it is good to support Israel? I don't think it is. I don't think that we've had good interactions with that on all the wars that we get involved in on their behalf. Now, we can have that discussion just fine. But once again, the Dershowitz thing, and I know people freak out because they don't understand, like, my position, which is I'm not a fan of Israel. I'm not a fan of Hamas. But I don't like to see what's happening with the people in Gaza. And as the first thing you would think of is, or that I'd like to premise here is, if someone is in Gaza right now, what does it say on their passport if they were actually to get one? My understanding, I've looked into it, I don't really think that I think they're kind of stateless. They're kind of like held in a open air area where they're under the control of Israel. We just had a situation where Israel's like, we're cutting off your power. Why is a country, if you want to think, because people will say this, that Gaza or the Palestinians, they're like their own country. They're not. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to not have someone turn off their own power. Okay, and that's just one little tiny aspect of it. So they're not. So they're being held out there. It's really an apartheid situation that's going on. I'm not a fan of any of that at all. But once again, Dershowitz, you just have to say pro-Hamas, right? It's like, is it? I mean, I'm not a fan of Hamas at all. Matter of fact, if you could just do Hamas and the IDF and just put them in a place and throw them out there, I'd get rid of both of them. I'm perfectly happy with all that. But just because you don't like to see what's happening in Palestine right now, or Gaza or whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean I'm pro-Hamas. And I don't know that Kali guy is pro-Hamas. I just think he's anti-Israel. Okay, and being this is the problem you get with the IHRA, the working definition of anti-Semitism. If you're not pro, it means you're against, and that is not true. That is not true. You could be neutral or just not a fan. It doesn't mean that I am for the opposition either.
Demonstrations at Columbia, he had a right to hold up a sign accusing Israel of whatever and calling for genocide. If he did, against the Jewish people.
If he did, okay. So see, these could be defamatory statements here, Dershowitz. I don't know that he held up and said he's calling for genocide. I think he held up a sign that said no genocide for for on the part of Israel. So he liked to twist that one real quick there.
He has a First Amendment right to do
Yes,
that,
he does.
and I have a First Amendment right to answer him, and I'm
Yeah,
going to answer him, and I'm going to continue to answer him. And I have another book coming out soon called Palestinianism, which focuses on why everybody is so immersed in the Palestinian issue and focused on Israel's faults. When look what's going on in Syria today, hundreds of thousands of people are subject.
Okay. Well, my understanding of Syria is we had a leader in power there. A lot of the right, a lot of Israel did not like it. So we pushed that guy out, Assad. And now you have the new people in there that they wanted, but they're bad. And they're killing more Christians than it was. And, you know, I think there was a quote I had here of Ben Shapiro saying, so what?
To possible murder and etc. what's happening in Darfur, the world doesn't care. It only cares if the alleged enemies are Jews, and it's part of a long history of.
No, and see, this is where he conflates it here as well. There is a population of Israelis who are not Jews. So can we just say Israel rather than Jews? Because this is his problem. He likes to tie all those together. So, okay, I'm done. And because you guys are going to keep going, oh, this anti-Semitic behavior of Tyler is that, whatever. I thought last thing I would talk about here is conservative influencers are now lobbying for welfare benefits to buy soda. Be careful who you listen to on here. This reads like a paid lobbying campaign to me. And then this guy has deleted his page, and I don't even know if he's still even here, but there's a lot of this interaction of these people that are basically I talked about it on No Way Jose's show this morning. Go check that out. The Morning Dump. It's fantastic. Last thing I will look at here is a thing about, and I don't know that I really care about this, but here you go. The CEO, Jeremy Bourne, company out in turmoil. Who are they funded by? First, stuff you already know. Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Bourne launched the Daily Wire with $4.7 million seed money from the billionaire petroleum industry brothers Dan and Ferris Wilks. Those are cute. Over the next decade, the endeavor was wildly successful, mostly relying on profits to fuel its growth. That is until 2023, when Axios reported that the Daily Wire raised an undisclosed round of capital valuation of $1 billion with a few surprising new investors. One investor, the undisclosed 2023 funding rounding for the Daily Wire, Jason Cam. Cam is the managing director of Thiel Capital. There you go. We just talked about that on Jose. I think it was showing that Thiel was had some ties to being a spook of some sort, glowy. He also serves on the board of directors at Thiel Foundation and is a young global leader at World Economic Forum. Another investor in undisclosed 2023 funding round for the Daily Wire, Susan Panuccio. Panuccio is a longtime CFO of News Corp, the media giant that owns The Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, and many other outlets before stepping down in January. Other investors in the undisclosed 2023 funding round for the Daily Wire, including other previous investors in company leadership, the likes of Dan Wilkes, Jeremy Boring, Ben Shapiro, Caleb Robinson, Sam Gzura, John Lewis, and Tara Murphy. So while the Daily Wire brands itself as a bastion of new media, the potential influence of investors like Thiel Capital and News Corp raises important questions. If these connections hold true, one should wonder the true nature of outlets' independent journalism. Yeah, I've talked about that a little bit, and you saw that with the Epstein files coming out there. So, Stephen, come back. Nothing you said is anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that Israel is not the evil overlord that you think they are. No, I would agree. One, I don't know that you've characterized me completely right about the evil overlord. I think they're evil overlord of that area right now, of the people that are under their purview. As an example, you couldn't imagine that we, the U.S., would be doing this in this day and age to blacks, to our Native Americans. You know, they have rights. These people don't have rights. So, and even if you're in Palestine, if you're in Israel proper, and you do have a lot of the same rights, you don't have the same rights unless you're Jewish to own land. You can't run for Congress or the Knesset or be an elected official unless you pledge allegiance that Israel is a Jewish state. So there's problems with that. So, you know, there's some issues there that I have, and that's my issue and part of it. And then you get the blind dedication. That's the weird aspect of this, okay? And it's what we see with Dershowitz and Ben Shapiro's and many of these others, that it's the blind loyalty to it's a different country. Now, according to them, me saying that is anti-Semitic, but it's true. You don't see that with any other groups, right? And if you do, there's a problem with that, right? I have a problem with Ilhan Omar, or any of these other ones that come over and they still have this grasp of their foreign country. You're supposed to take an allegiance to this country well and above and over, so there's problematic issues with that. I just think that whole Middle East situation is much more complex than we let on. And for us, the Americans, to get involved in such a degree is not always a healthy thing. So I'm being a little hyperbolic. That's perfectly fine. And by the way, I appreciate you making these comments in here. Nothing's better than pushback, and I appreciate it. And I'm not going to... All I really want to do, because the more you're seeing this over and over, is this free speech issue and the Con Inc. kind of coming in, taking over, which, I voted for Trump, told you that many times, voted for him because I wanted Ross Ulbricht to be free, and this is better than the alternative, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to be pushing back on some of this stuff. And I don't like that you can start to say, because things can switch. You keep this online, the tactics, the expelling people, the deportation first thoughts and speech. And if you're not specific that it's not about what this Khalil guy is saying, it's that he's saying things that are subversive to the America. Well, if you're just saying he's talking about Palestine and Israel, how is that subversive to America unless you have a provision in Congress and in 32, I think, states where it's against the law to speak out against Israel? It's baffling to me, and that needs to be brought out. And that's why I think Con Inc. is going to be in trouble. Once this start happening and you're questioning all this, and if you're going to start rounding up, Americans, to taking this on, not deporting them, but, doing things against this speech code that they have. South Dakota is a great, Noam, she passed this just last year. So, these are the problems you're going to have, and I think that's where you're going to actually start getting a problem. I see some of these people that I follow here on Twitter and that they're with me, or that they follow me and I follow them, that, you speak out, they immediately go for the jugular of your anti-Semitic or your pro-Hamas. And it's just like, God, you can't think beyond that. Allow. Okay. That's all I've got for you guys today. I'm going to go, 1:12 here p.m. in the Pacific time zone. I'm going to go do a bike ride and some other things. It's nice weather out here, so I think we're going to have a good one. And I will see you on Friday again here into this next week. The week looks pretty busy, but I'll try to get back to you. If you guys have suggestions, what you want, follow me on Twitter. Give notes in the chat here about stuff you want to talk about. But until next week, and I do need to do a new intro, so until next week, see y'all.
Things are going to start happening.
Okay, I'm leaving now, I guess.
But she's back.
And now.
Tyler, if you had any clout about you, if you had any knowledge of the real world of what happens, we walk into Tim Cass' studio, immediately there's 4 Jewish lawyers.
King of the Druids!
That's all we needed. A Jewish princess.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't expect the normies like Tyler to understand these kind of things. He's just a podunk lawyer somewhere in rural California. He's an idiot, really.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
This guy's, I wouldn't say he's full of shit, but I'd say he's stupid. Whatever, if you're in the comments, if you're in the chat now, I wouldn't pay attention to anything he says anyway. But
more or less, eat shit and die.
Don't ever come to Top Lobster. He will end you. Do you see what he just did to Tyler? Just fucking challenge this
Tyler's
entire...
done.
Top is a maniac.
He can't even reply right now because he's crippled.
He's got nothing to say.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?